I'm Haley Taylor, and you're listening to the Rough Draft Diaries. On the last episode of the Rough Draft Diaries, one of our guests, Johnny, mentioned how important it was to check in with friends during this time, to, if you could, call someone at 2 o'clock every single day. That's kind of what we're doing on this episode. We're going to check in with some previous Rough Draft Diaries guests. One person I thought of was Miriam, who, if you remember, was on the program in early February.
Miriam Wagoner. I'm the creative director of the Art and Performance Center, West Toledo.
The episode was mainly about what Miriam just mentioned, the Art and Performance Center of West Toledo, a space that was so new, not even 3 years old, that Miriam was still establishing her audience, still working hard to financially stay ahead. She relied on foot traffic to get people into the art galleries during the day and into the seats at night for her evening concerts. Obviously, that has all changed since the quarantine.
I went through my days of tears where, oh my gosh, this is going to destroy my business because I'm so new and because I'm financially fragile and I may not have the same safeguards because I have no employees that a lot of small businesses have. So I went through a quick mourning about that process of the possibility of having to let everything go that I've been working on for the last 30 years and more importantly, the last 5 years. Yesterday was my 3-year anniversary of being open for business as the Art and Performance Center of West Toledo. And the irony did not pass through me without notice that, now this may be a closure of a physical space.
We'll get back to Miriam in just a moment, but there's one more guest I want to check in on. It's actually the very first guest of the Rough Draft Diaries, an episode that aired in late October 2015. It begins with a rejection from art school.
And I went home and I cried and they told me I didn't
That's Dani Herrera, a multimedia artist. We talked about her art in the episode, but mainly focused on how she became an artist and her struggles that followed along the way. She lost her father at a young age, was diagnosed with OCD in early adulthood, and was fighting a reoccurring brain tumor at the time of our interview. This season of quarantine has also provided a challenge for Dani.
Well, with my husband losing his job, we're moving in with my parents because also my stepfather's sick. We're moving in with them to kind of help with taking care of them and also financial situations and things like that. So it's shaping our world differently, but at the same time, I think in my whole lifespan, I've learned to just kind of roll with it. At one point, it's, okay, we have a big change coming up, but at the same time, it's there's no reason to be downhearted about it. It's just another chapter in our lives that we're going to have to face, and don't be upset. It's just something different.
That silver line positivity sounds familiar. I noticed it years ago when I first interviewed Dani. We talked about her artwork, the strange nature of her commissions, how almost all of Dani's work is created out of a place of grief. People who want a portrait to remember a lost loved one or a beloved pet. I remember thinking it must feel strange to be working constantly surrounded by loss. I mean, how does that... Is it weird? I mean, I feel like it would be weird to constantly be having to deal with, death all the time.
I've lost a lot of people in my life, but I guess that's just the way I can comfort other people is how I've dealt with it. But with my beliefs, there's life after death. There's more to this life than just what's here. So it's not so much pain and heartache, but there's comfort.
In a way, Miriam and Dani are experiencing a death of their own. It's the ending, the passing of one chapter in their life and the birth of another. Miriam still doesn't know if she'll be able to return to the physical building of the art center. And Dani knows for sure that she will not be able to return to the house that they once had as she moves in with her parents. And yet they both seem to think about this new chapter in their life as a positive.
It's been liberating. If you can surrender your idea of how things should be and go with how they actually are and look at the resources, and if you're a creative, intelligent person, you can find your way through this. And I'm all right. There's been a surrender of sorts, a release that's been priceless. And had I stayed busy and doing, one of my people that's a partner in my art space said, yeah, I know that If the world hadn't demanded that you stop, you never would have stopped. There's a regrouping that has to happen, and we've got to be a part of it if we're going to survive. You can't duck out of this no matter how. And she's right. I'm a driven person by nature, and she's right. I would have not stopped.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rebirth, and I think people are starting to see things. The things they were catty and fighting over before, politically, socially, everything. They're gonna see it's not worth it anymore, and just kind of, at least I'm hoping that it's just not gonna be worth it in the end, and just kind of throw those things away and start over. At least that's what I'm hoping.
We'll be catching up with a few more previous guests of the Rough Draft Diaries on this next episode, so stay tuned. But for now, I'm Haley Taylor, and thanks for listening.